Public land in the United States is ripe with a bloody history of greed and class warfare. In this video, we are going to go over some of the most hotly disputed cases and show why the government is subsidizing the rich at the expense of the taxpayer when it comes to public lands.
For decades, Idahoans have used this popular Forest Service road, Boise Ridge Road, to get across Boise County, to get to their favorite hunting spots or to recreate. But recently, DF Development put up these bright orange gates here and on the other side of their property closer to Bogus Basin, as well as no trespassing signs, blocking several miles on this road and thousands of acres of previously accessible private property.
Billionaires Dan and Faris Wilks bought up thousands of acres in Idaho and practically overnight blocked off access to regularly used roads and trails. Land lots in the United States lay on a grid system, and often public land is interlocked between private and public land lots. Strategic buyers can buy the right parcels of land to give them exclusive access to publicly held land.
Billionaire brothers Dan and Faris Wilks from Texas are buying up massive amounts of private land across the state. But they recently put up gates on a well-traveled Forest Service road through their property in the Boise National Forest. Many Idahoans are up in arms, but whether people legally have access through there is still up in the air.
Private, public, state land, it's all checkerboarded.
DFD property is surrounded by state and federal lands.
There's a lot of people who want to access it.
And now, access to public lands through some of their private property is blocked.
As one would expect, many people have not taken well to land that has been used for generations made inaccessible. While the no trespassing signs have stopped some, others ignore the signs or take to a questionable tactic called corner hopping.
And I asked him, I was like, what is corner crossing? What am I looking at here? And the way he kind of explained it to me is like kind of a little bigger than just corner crossing specifically, but about access and how it used to be. And if you wanted to hunt somewhere, but you knew that there was some private land or there was a ranch or whatever, you could go contact the owner of that property or whoever's at the ranch manager, say, look, hey, I want to go hunt over there. Are you okay with it? Or, hey, would you like me to help you out on the ranch a little bit in exchange if you'll let me go there? But there's been this big dramatic shift in kind of pay to play that, okay, you're either going to use our outfitter and pay for it to get there, or you're not going at all, or there's no communication whatsoever. And that's kind of the broader picture of just, it used to be, oh, I want to go over there because I'm going to go hunt or whatever it is I want to do, and that door has been closed. And corner crossing is just like a subspecies of that whole problem, and it has more to do with this unique land pattern, the checkerboard, which is alternating public and private square mile chunks. Looks like a checkerboard, and where the public and public share a corner with the private and private. There's this philosophical, moral, legal question of whether or not a person can go from that public square to the other public square. That would be your corner cross.
Corner hopping often occurs at the boundary where public and private lands meet. When private landowners place barriers or signs near these boundaries, they can effectively restrict access to the adjacent public lands. This tactic, known as corner hopping, involves crossing from private to public land at the corner of parcels to avoid crossing through legally defined access points. By controlling these access points or blocking access to public land, private landowners can gatekeep the use of public lands, making it more difficult for the public to access these areas. This not only limits public enjoyment and use of natural resources, but also can circumvent the legal intent to provide open, accessible public lands for all. Moreover, private landowners can exploit this situation by charging fees or otherwise monetizing access to public lands, thereby financially benefiting from areas maintained by taxpayer dollars without contributing to their upkeep.
The ranch manager acting as a representative of the ranch, they have been under the assumption and have been enjoying exclusive access to this public land, which is protected by this corner that they feel is a barrier to entry.
Elk Mountain Ranch in Carbon County is the landowner referenced in a case that may head to the Supreme Court. Elk Mountain Ranch is owned by wealthy North Carolina pharmaceutical magnate Fred Eshelman. The case involves Elk Mountain Ranch suing 4 hunters for using a makeshift ladder to go from public land corner to public land corner, avoiding crossing over privately held land by Elk Mountain Range.
So you have a landowner owns and pays taxes on surrounding ground, and because of his surrounding ground's proximity to these pieces of public land, and because of this corner that they view can't be crossed, they enjoy exclusive access to the point where if this ranch was transacting on the public market as it had in the past, it would be pointed out in the listing that not only are you buying X acres, you're getting a lot of bonus land that only you can use. So there's a lot there's a lot to defend here.
Absolutely.
From the position of the landowner is defending a sizable chunk of ground that they had assumed was, for all intents and purposes, theirs.
Whether it's hunting and fishing or a morning hike, public lands all over the United States are under siege. In 2013, 2 men ended a years-long heated dispute over access to public land, with 1 man dead, shot in the back. Joseph Campbell bought up hundreds of acres, blocking access to a group of small family cabins and public ground in Montana. Timothy Newman was one of the many affected and refused to comply to multiple threats by Campbell until he ultimately shot him in the back and killed him. While this has focused primarily on the issue of acquiring land to restrict access to public land, it's important to recognize that this is just one facet of a broader, more complex problem. There are additional concerns, such as individuals erecting no trespassing signs on land they do not legally own, in an attempt to privatize public land. Regardless of one's stance on the principle of public lands, there is a growing consensus that providing subsidies to a select few wealthy individuals who can afford to purchase extensive tracts of land constitutes a misuse of our resources. This practice highlights a troubling imbalance and prompts a crucial conversation about the integrity of our land management system. If you would like to see more bite-sized videos on complex topics, you can subscribe and hit the bell to get alerts on new videos.